Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
TV Olympics are full steam ahead now, bro. We finally got past exhibition, which means now the road to gold, the road to glory, so to speak.
Yeah.
We're finally in the mix, and we've gotten a couple games so far over the last couple of days. So I mean, we're in the mix now.
We're 100% in the mix now. We got the men's going on, the women's going on. And today's going to be an interesting episode because we're going to have a bit of both. We have some WNBA topics we want to go into. Like we mentioned, we're not stopping with that episode. We're going to be continuing on to WNBA topics throughout the summer months. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the Olympic stuff that's going on because there's been a lot of awesome storylines, especially who's going to take down Team USA. Is it going to happen? Who's not? But we're going to talk about the biggest threats later on. It's going to be a great episode. Looking forward to you guys, like I mentioned, talking about WNBA title contenders, what we think the USA basketball roster is going to look like for both the men's and women's in 4 years. So we're going to look into that. And also we're going to look at the biggest threats to Team USA's men's team for this current Olympics as well. So it's going to be an action-packed episode. We have a quiz at the end as well. So it's going to be a pretty typical Hit Your Free Throws, but it's going to be super, super dope. But before we get into that, we do have to plug our socials. Make sure you follow our individual accounts at TV on Basketball, at @knockdownj/routine-jumper. Those links will be found in the description down below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram for the best WNBA content. By the way, shout out to the TikTok. How are my boys down there in South Sudan doing? Hey, man, shout out to our support. I know we've reached a certain population over there. So, hey, if you're coming over to the pod, we might be talking about your team a little bit later on today. So be on the lookout for that and just the Olympics in general. But yeah, thank you for all the support on that. Make sure if you're listening on any of the podcast networks, Spotify or Apple, leave a review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you're watching us on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. Jay, are you ready to get into this?
Yeah, bro, like you said, haven't talked WNBA since last episode, but we're still locked in. Obviously, things are on pause right now, but that gives us a little bit of time to actually kind of make sense of this first part of the season. And then, come on, man, if we didn't do Olympics, it wouldn't be right. This is the best time in hoops right now. I'm not going to hold you.
100%. And, of course, we have this little bit of a, what is it, like a 3 week or so, like kind of break from the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the season's on pause. We kind of have a chance to recollect ourselves. And today we're going to talk about basically who we think are the biggest title favorites now at this point of the season. Like teams that played 25, 26 games. Like how many games are left, Jay? There's still like just over half the season left, right?
Yeah, it's still a good portion. It's just over 25. I think it's just over about 25. Like you said, about 25, 26 games left for all teams. And we've gotten to see a lot from everybody so far in the beginning of this year. And I'm not going to say that anybody has necessarily separated themselves from the pack just yet. I'll actually go through some of the title odds before we really lock in terms of like picking our favorites. But as of right now, like things are still looking a little bit close. And I think I'm not going to say it's anybody's league in terms of holding up the title at the end of the season, but like there's a pretty good push by a couple of squads that I think we're going to hear from a lot later on this summer.
Yeah, 100%. And Jay, I'm actually going to ask the question and you started off. Who do you think is the top title favorite at the break at the moment?
So, according to FanDuel and DraftKings, it's Las Vegas, and they're sitting pretty at plus 160 on both. They're looking pretty good. I'll just read you guys out the order for what FanDuel and DraftKings has in terms of the title odds, and we'll kind of build from there. But they've got the Las Vegas Aces at plus 160. The New York Liberty right behind them at plus 190. So very close right there in terms of where they feel the title odds are for them. But then there's a bit of a drop off at number 3 and down below. So they have Minnesota and Connecticut both at plus 650. That's for FanDuel. And then Seattle at number 5 at plus 1,200. DraftKings is a little bit different, but not too far off. They believe a little less in Minnesota at plus 900. And then they believe in a little less in Connecticut at plus 750, believe in Seattle a little bit more at plus 900. But basically the top 5 they have is Vegas, New York, Minnesota, Connecticut, Seattle. I got to be honest with you, TV. I'm not messing with their list. But how do you feel? I want to hear how you feel about their list first.
Okay, the way I view at least like the current like state of title contenders right now is they see. I mean, like obviously Las Vegas and New York were in the finals last year, in terms of the WNBA finals, but what they have compared to these other teams, maybe these teams are a bit more well-rounded, but you got the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces, both got the star power. Both teams got the pure star power, and in terms of the odds, I kind of see what they're getting at. Maybe you would give maybe a little bit more love to like Minnesota, who's number 1 right now in the West. Maybe a little bit more love to Connecticut, who's looked just like fantastic all around this year. But man, Jay, if I had to pick one contender that if I had to put all my money on, I think this might be the Liberty's year, man. This might be the Liberty's year.
That's funny that you say that because honestly, I don't want to actually glaze over this. I do actually really want to get into that part of it. I think the Liberty have a real shot where I think that them placing Vegas and the Liberty so close to each other in the odds, I think it's worth it. If you look at DraftKings, they have Vegas at 160, New York at 170. They look at these two teams as nearly neck and neck when it comes to their star power. But then that makes things so much more tricky to me when I look at Connecticut. Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner, Brianna Jones, all playing relatively well this year. Then they make the trade right before the All-Star break for Marina Mabry, a big-time stretch guard that gives them another three-point element. We've seen how well Dejanay Carrington has played so far this year, where she looks like a real MIP candidate. I said this on our last WNBA episode that I felt like Dejanay looks like a real most improved candidate and somebody that could be a real X factor for them as like a guard defender in the postseason. I think that and I told you beforehand, like in that last episode, I think that Minnesota is a really sneaky team with the fact that Nafisa Collier has played so well this year. But when you look at Connecticut, one of the top defenses in the league, they have star power. Then you add Marina to the perimeter for them right before All-Star. Like, I'm confused as to why Connecticut isn't closer to where New York and Las Vegas are. And so as much as I love Minnesota, I think Connecticut is closer to those two teams than being neck and neck with Minnesota the way DraftKings and FanDuel has it.
I definitely get what you mean. It's just like this is what I'm talking about with these like teams like kind of at the bottom, like where you have like Las Vegas and New York, of course the top end like star power over there. These other teams feel like they're more well-built, well-rounded in terms of that. And they've shown it like early on in the season. Like you mentioned, Connecticut is like one of the best defenses in the league so far this year. And adding Marie, and then making that trade really just helps out their perimeter play. Shows that they're really going all in. And they feel in their hearts that they are like amongst the top teams to be in terms of WNBA title contention. So I'm surprised that there's like that much of a gap as well. But I want to talk about like New York right now because because my thing last year was obviously the Las Vegas Aces, one of the most insane starting fights. You got Kelsey, you got freaking Asia Wilson, who's gonna be the runaway MVP this year. It feels like you got this like absolute super team that's happening in the WNBA, and then you had the MVP of last year, Breonna Stewart, coming over to New York, making a huge impact, but Jonquel Jones at the time and Sabrina Ionescu were very good players, but haven't ascended into like that top 10, top 5 status. Sabrina has done that this year. Sabrina has really like elevated her game and to be one of the best guards in the league. And now they have a legitimate it's not just Brianna this year where you can like rely on both these guys to kind of do the job for you, which is what you need to combat the Las Vegas Aces sort of team. And then Jonquel is having a fantastic year as well. Of course, you have the veteran there, Vandersloot as well, like coming in their lineup too. I think that New York now, even though they haven't made too many changes, I think that they're kind of their chemistry within and like just letting their players get better has kind of brought them to the Las Vegas level where maybe before the season people thought Las Vegas were runaway winners. I think New York is going to be kind of right there. If not, they should be the title favorites going into the second half of the season.
I can't blame you. At the end of the day, I feel like their big three is right there with Las Vegas in terms of big threes. And if you really look at the way they've grouped up these 5 teams, outside of, I mean, Minnesota might be the only outlier when we're talking about like notable star power. Because when we go past Nafisa, and I don't want to be disrespectful by any means when it comes to them, but when we're talking about like star power in comparison, top heavy wise, Minnesota is the only team to me that comes off as a little bit more well-rounded as opposed to being more of like a top heavy team. Like I like Kayla McBride and I like what she's been able to do this season. She's been a big time contributor for them. I think another like very underrated pickup this summer was bringing in Courtney Williams at the guard spot for them. Just another veteran presence, takes care of the ball, defends at a high level, all the things that she used to do back when she played for Connecticut. So, I mean, they're more of like a much more like all around well-built team. They don't have the kind of star power that these other 4 teams that we're talking about have. And I'm including Seattle in that as well, because Jewel Lloyd, Inyeka Ogwumike, Skylar Dickens-Smith, they've all had really strong seasons. I'm looking at the stats now, all averaging at least 13 points per game or more. Jewel Lloyd, at 20, but they're overall that big three in their own right. Minnesota is the only team that does not have like this big three, and they're in the mix here. And I think that that goes back to, I think, the impact of Nafisa Collier as an MVP candidate this year. But B, I think it goes to tell you that in these odds, the talent at the top is dictating where people really feel this is going to go. Because I mean, we got to remember, like, just like in the NBA, in a 3-game or a 5-game series, having the best talent sometimes can outweigh all, right? And as far as I'm concerned, if we're being honest, the only people who are going to stop Las Vegas is Las Vegas. If we're being honest, just based off of talent alone, right? But if I have to pick an upset, if I'm going to be the person that picks who's going to be the team to knock them off, I hear you're going with New York. My team, that if there's anybody that's going to take Las Vegas off of this pedestal and stop them from three-peating, my team to pick that's going to be the dark horse is Connecticut. I think Connecticut is built different. I think that when you look at that group that they have with Alyssa, with DeWanna Bonner, with now having Marina Mabry, with having Dejanay Carrington, like that group, they have versatile wing play. They can shoot the heck out of the 3-ball. They are, like I've mentioned beforehand, one of the better defensive groups in the league. And if you want to just talk about being able to match up bar for bar with Vegas, if it comes to that point, I think if you look across the roster in terms of starting 5 plus bench, in my personal opinion, I think the Connecticut Sun have the best built roster to be able to go toe-to-toe with Vegas this year. That's just my personal opinion. But I think that when you talk about talent for talent plus overall roster construction, I think that that's going to be A, one hell of a series, and B, might be the closest push that Vegas gets to possibly losing and not being able to complete the three-peat.
That's 100% fair. By the way, we're talking about the New York Liberty. I didn't even get to talk about Lainey Hamilton, who's been absolutely great for them as well this year.
Yeah, and was a real player for them last year. Yeah, that kind of like helped things kind of go along as they were trying to get that trifecta together, because it was a really slow start for them last year. Like a lot of people don't talk about that. Their initial chemistry made it where they did not have a great start to the year, and they were able to pick up late, and it really helped boost them going into the postseason. But Tina was a big part of being able to kind of keep themselves afloat in the midst of Brianna and them trying to figure out like things like shot selection, overall distribution, those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, like you add a player like Brianna Stewart, who's like a top 3 player in the league. Like it's going to be a huge transition for Sabrina, who was supposed to be, the lead guard there, who now has like one of the best players in the league next to her, for John Quell trying to figure out like where the space is between the two now, and for stuff like that. So as her being kind of like that steady piece over the past 2 years, shout out to her as well. But man, their talent, they're finally putting it together. I mean, I respect Connecticut, but this New York Liberty team feels like they finally got it.
Yeah.
They finally got it, and now that Sabrina is now like putting herself into that upper echelon of players in the WNBA, that's scary for Las Vegas. That's scary.
I think overall this is going to be a really fun race to the postseason. Obviously, we have a rookie of the year race that sounds like it's going to tread on who makes the postseason, right? As well with Chicago and
Yeah,
Indiana.
yeah, shout out both of them are going to make the postseason. They both might.
Yeah, and there's a real likelihood, and talk about making the rookie of the year selection that much harder if they both make the
Yeah.
postseason, because man, then you don't even have a really strong tiebreaker to help with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark in terms of just like figuring out where you're splitting hairs at that point. So this is going to be a really fun, race to the end of the regular season. I think all 5 of these teams have their own real strengths and weaknesses that will like really show out come that time, and it's going to be really important to see where this star talent shows up. We didn't talk about Minnesota too much. Hopefully, we talked about Nafisa Collier's injury last time we
Yeah.
spoke about the WNBA, that last episode.
She looks good
Hopefully
now.
she'll
She looks good now. She looks good.
yeah, hopefully everything will be good to go by the time that the regular season picks back up. That puts Minnesota in a really good place because, like we said before, she's been playing at a top 2, top 3 level this year. And then Seattle, we didn't give them too much praise, but shout out to them for being able to make this work. Because this is a lot of difference for a lot of players in this. Skylar Diggins-Smith is coming off of a full year game.
Yeah.
And Yeka Ogwumike is making her first transition as not only being like a secondary player on this team, which is the first time it's happened kind of really ever as far as I'm concerned in terms of her career, but more specifically like carving out a new role for herself as an older player on a different team after being with the LA Sparks for so long, and Jewel Lloyd having the keys, not for the first time, because she's had the keys for about a season or two now, but really embracing being the number 1 option on the Seattle Storm. Like, this is going to be a really fun race, and I think all 5 of these teams, I'm not gonna say have an equal chance, but I would not be surprised by any means if any of the 4 teams below Vegas were capable of. I would not be surprised if any of those 4 teams knocked Vegas off, because I think they all have a legitimate case for why they could, they could go the distance with Vegas and stop them from making that 3P. But
100%.
like you said before, it's Vegas's chip to lose at the end of the day, just based off of how insanely talented they are.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, let us know down below what you guys think. Who is Vegas gonna 3P, or do you think there's someone that's finally gonna take him down and like stop them? They're kind of like on that Golden State run right now, man. From the late 2010s. Is there gonna be that Toronto Raptors team that kind of like comes into the mix and could kind of take them down? We'll have to wait and see. But let us know who you think down below has the best chance to take them down. Jay, we're gonna move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about the Olympics soon. But I saw this like question come up. I think it was like on Twitter or something.
Mm-hmm.
What will Team USA look like in 2028?
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of like, older players on both the men's and women's sides.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot could change in the 4 years. If LeBron makes it to the Olympics in 2028, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with my life at that point. But there's going to be a lot of changes. So what me and Jay did here, Jay's got the men's, I got the women's, and we're going to try and build a Team USA roster that will be at the Olympics at 2028. Jay, how do you feel about making this list?
Man, so this was a really insane list to put together, because there are a lot of like guys that like we just synonymously relate to, not just like the NBA, but to Olympics play that possibly are not going to be on that 2028 team. I mean, you mentioned LeBron James. LeBron James has actually already made it clear that he is not going to be in LA as a part of that team. I think that's why it was just so important for him to be the flag bearer for our squad this year, is because that's just almost like the perfect Olympic send-off. Yeah, exactly. In terms of being able to, let him be what I believe only the 3rd basketball player as a flag bearer for Team USA, which is huge. I think it was Cheryl Swoops and then Diana Taurasi or something like that was the other 2 names. So huge to be, in that same ilk with those 2. But then also just being able to like have this kind of send off. That's why I think, we really going for gold this year. We really going for gold this year. And Team USA across the board, for every sport we send, I think we finally just eclipsed 3,000 total gold medals across all sports, which is like hilariously dominant, because I think I read a stat that said no other country has eclipsed 1,500.
Yeah,
So that's pretty insane stuff. But with all that being said, there's a lot of guys that are like really well known in the NBA, also really well known for their Olympics play. And I think a good handful of the guys that are on this team this year, we're not going to see in 2028, and that feels so surreal to say out loud.
100%. I mean, when you look at the best players, I mean, this year for freaking Team USA, like KD, Steph, LeBron, like how many of them are even going to be available? Who knows? But we're going to get
Yeah.
into that team very shortly. I'm going to start with the women's one
Mhm.
because we just talked about the NBA, the WNBA, and honestly, Jay, I don't think there's going to be too much difference.
Okay.
I made one more change, like as we were talking, like from like when we talked like before the pod. But
Mhm.
here's the team I have. If you have
Okay.
any objections, just jump right in.
All right,
So
bet.
Sabrina's gonna be here in
Yeah.
2028. She's gonna be here, 100%.
Yeah.
Kalia Cooper, she's gonna be here.
Got to.
She's gotta be here.
Copper.
Oh,
I
sorry,
messed that up last
sorry,
time too.
Cooper. Yeah, Kalia Copper. She's gonna be there. Nafisha Collier, gonna be there.
Should have been here. Was gonna be here this time. So
Yes,
I mean,
for sure.
in
I
terms
mean,
of being healthy all the way, obviously.
yeah. Let's go with the two freaking MVPs, man. Breonna Stewart and Aisha Wilson.
Mm.
They're still going to be at the top of the game by 2028. Jackie Young, one of the best guards in the league, Las Vegas Aces. I think she's still going to be there. Here's some other people I have that's still making it. Kelsey Plum, I still think she's going to be in the mix. And surprisingly, my surprising change that I have here, and it's because I don't know how Cameron Brink is going to look after her injury. That's kind of like my issue with this. But I still think Brittany Griner is going to be part of the 2028 team. It's kind of like the elder statesman of Team USA. Those are the people I have staying. Any really objections?
I think Brittany's the only one that I'm actually a little bit concerned about. Otherwise, I mean, doing your version of the Atlanta Hawks All-Star team by sending damn near all of Vegas' starting five over there is
Bro,
definitely.
I mean, we talked about how insane they are, bro. We talked about how insane they are.
That's definitely hilarious to know that we're definitely sending the champs over. We're talking about trying to go win a gold medal. So that's huge. But I mean, when you really think about the squad that you have so far, I mean, those all sound like mainstays. They all sound like players that are not going to outage over the next 4 years, and all players that do have a real role on a team that we're talking about sending our best 12 to go get us a gold medal. So yeah.
100%. Also, I forgot to actually mention to someone who I actually included on. So we talked about this before the pod, and I said that Alyssa Thomas was gonna stay on. I decided to keep Jewel on.
Okay.
Jewel on.
I think that's fair as well. I think
Yeah.
Jewel is only on the ascension right now, and I feel like by 2028 she's gonna be in a really different conversation amongst guards. I'm glad you threw Jackie Young in there, just because obviously she's on the team right now, but I think that when you talk about this Vegas team, people almost bring her name up too little. Like, she's becoming underrated,
Right?
because
Yeah.
when you look at the pecking order for this team, she comes up so late, right? Obviously, Asia starts at the top. You have Kelsey, then you have you go down. I mean, you have Gray, you have Chelsea Gray. Like, you go down the list, and like you have to get to like 4 or 5 before you start to really bring up Jackie Young's name. I think even on this podcast, we haven't went into the WNBA super in depth just yet, but like, we've brought up Kate Martin's name more than we brought up Jackie Young's name. It goes to let you know that she's kind of like, she slowly but surely becomes an afterthought with this Vegas team, but she is one of those engines that makes this team go. Like, she is an any night can go for 20 plus kind of player, and that's a player that I think is only going to continue to grow and become more and more confident within her role as A, the Vegas Aces continue to try to play for championships, and B, as she gets more years under her belt, which she's already so great as it is.
100%. But this means with this roster, there's going to be 3 new names here.
Okay.
Number 1, we know what's happening. Caitlin Clark's going to be a part of this team.
Yeah.
We know she is.
Yeah.
Another person we know we're going to be part of this team, Angel Reese, eventually will be a part of this team. And they also have Aaliyah Boston.
Okay.
Part of this. Again, 2 former number 1 overall picks, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark. I think that as they continue to grow, Indiana continues to get better, and they're going to start getting more love as a duo in the next coming years. And I think that they're going to reach that point where they're both going to be able to be on Team USA. And then Angel Reese already making like her splash this early in her career, they're going to need like another kind of like just rough it down there sort of big man to kind of mix it up, especially, we talked about, those Asian countries developing those like big men in the future. You need to have someone kind of like banging down low, and I think Angel Reese is going to do that in 2028. But not many changes to this team, and those are my 3 additions.
Man, I mean, I don't blame you for those. I would just say that 2028 is a long way away. So I would also say, like, I think Paige Buckers has a chance.
I was thinking about it, but I'm like, am I jumping a gun on someone not even in the league yet? I don't know if I want to do that.
Look, anything can happen, but all I'm saying is that I'm saying that she's going to be obviously in the league next year. So she'll be about 3 to 4 years deep within her career. I was looking at the stats. Anthony Edwards is obviously, he just completed his 4th season, and he's the youngest player on this Team USA team.
Fair.
So it's definitely within the realm of possibility. I think she's a good enough player. I think the politics, if you want to play that game, definitely do contribute a little bit more to Paige than, for example, it did for Caitlyn, for example, where people felt like politics was the reason she didn't make the team. I think that you could make the argument that Paige might have the politics that help her make the team come that time around. But she's also a real talent in her own regards. And then another player, and I don't necessarily know the likelihood of this, but Haley Van Lith, right? She plays on the 3-on-3 team for Team USA. I wouldn't be surprised if she made it to the 5v5 squad, but I'm going to throw out another name that was really interesting because I found out that Haley Van Lith, only high school player, the only college player to make like a Team USA squad, like across any sport. Another player that I think has the real opportunity to do the same thing. Maybe it's not the 5v5 team. Maybe it's just the 3-on-3 team. But I'm going to just go on a limb and be hyperbolic. I think there's a real chance Juju Watkins becomes the first player out of college to make the 5v5 team for the Olympics. I think she's that good.
I was thinking Juju as well. It's the same argument I made for Paige. Like both girls are not in the league yet. I just think that I don't think I wanted to like kind of anoint them just yet, but
Fair.
I see like, but there's always going to be, those like super talents that kind of like come into the league, dominate right away. If it's Juju or Paige, if they end up doing it, they definitely have a good chance there. But I'm going kind of with the more established guys, but I wouldn't be mad if someone like predicted that Paige or Juju would be on it.
If we're going strictly off of people you have in the league, though, I think you have a really strong list. And I don't really think you omitted anybody that I feel like is going to be like super argumentative against, right? When you really go down the list, because we have to factor in age along with the fact of like, you are trying to build a roster that you feel is cohesive. Yeah. I understand that there is a part of it where we're just like, send the 12 best that we can. But I do think cohesion is a little bit important as well to all of that. I think there's a few different names you could kind of still float around, like DeWanna Bonner to an extent, but age comes in the category with that one.
For sure.
Jonquil Jones is still obviously one of the better players in the league at the big spot.
She's in the.
But I was gonna say, but obviously she wouldn't be playing for our team, so we can't really like reach on that one. We've seen Joel Embiid switch squads before. I'm just saying.
You're right.
I'm just saying. Right. But at the same time, that's another name that like we can't necessarily rely on just because of the politics of all of that. So I think when you put all of that together, if you're going strictly off of women that are in the league at this moment, I can't say I have too much beef with your list. I think that team is going to be really strong in 2028 as well.
Oh yeah, no, I think this team's going to be great. And to be honest, same thing with this year. I don't think it's going to be much competition. I don't think. I mean, like, maybe in a couple, maybe like there's going to be that sort of like jump like the NBA has had in terms of international talents coming abroad and maybe like shaking some things up. But right now, USA runs the WNBA right now, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So either way, even no matter what they add, if they want to add Juju Watkins, if they want to add Paige Beckers that way into their careers, I think if the result will be the same, they're going to end up with the gold. That's all I'm saying. But Jay, going over to you, the men's basketball team. I feel like there's potential for more turnover here, and especially by 2028, there's going to be kind of a new regime in terms of the NBA and kind of like who's taking over and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how your team lands.
Yeah, so this one, you're definitely right. A lot of turnover, and it's just because a lot of the mainstay guys that we always think of around this time in the summer, I just don't think they're going to be in the mix in 2028. And that's like I said earlier, that's a weird thing to think about. But when we're talking about sending our best 12 over to win the gold, like there's gonna be a lot of guys that I think won't even be in the league, let alone be considered our best players to go send over. In terms of like, being considered one of the best in basketball, for yet another, 4 years or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of turnover, but let's start with the mainstay guys. So the mainstay guys from the 2024 Men's Olympics team that I have are Anthony Edwards,
Okay.
Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Anthony Davis, and Tyrese Halliburton.
That's like half the roster only. Okay, so there's gonna be like
Yeah.
6 new guys. Like, is this because like you think that Steph, KD, and LeBron are not going to be in the league? Because even if I think they're in the league, if they're in the league, like they're gonna get like an honorary spot, kind of like how Melo got at the end of his career. They're gonna get an honorary spot.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If like I said, Braun basically has already omitted himself. So
for
that's
sure.
one guy that I think is kind of already out of the mix. Steph Curry, of course, there's always the chance he gets that honorary spot if he decides to play. He's 36 now. He would be 40. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't be there, but I do think that would be the definition of getting like you mentioned beforehand, that like honorary spot. If he were to make the team, and that's not to offend him, he would just be a 40-year-old Steph Curry. So like, let's just put it in perspective.
Yeah.
And then the other guys that fall off the list, Kevin Durant, he would be 39. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't make the team. Braun is 40 right now, but like I'm just putting in perspective that like age can determine these kind of things. Joel Embiid, he's been really fuzzy on the team this year. So I kind of wonder if at age 34, if he's really going to be in the mix. Drew Holiday would be 38. I just don't think, that would be him. And Derek White, he was a, last minute replacement for Kawhi Leonard. And we're talking about him at 34 years old by that time frame. So some of these guys, we're talking 34 plus years old. Am I taking them off the list just off of age alone? Not necessarily, but it definitely is a driving factor. So it was kind of easy to take a handful of these guys off, because once you start pushing 34 plus, I got to ask questions. Now, Anthony Davis, he's a guy that I kept on this list and he'll be 35. But I think by that point, especially at the center position, as just a rim running, shot blocking type, like forward/center, I think he'll just still play relatively well. Same thing for Bam Adebayo. I think him at 31 years old doesn't necessarily scare me as much. I just think it's once you start pushing, like, like I said, AD would be what? Anthony Davis would be 35. He's like going to be like the oldest guy on the version of the team that I'm putting together.
That's fair. So who do you have now joining the team in 2020?
Okay, so here's the question I want to ask you. Do you want me to give you the team as the version of guys who are already established, or do you want me to give you the team that I just think is going to be there?
What do you think is going to be there?
Okay, so the team that I put together alongside those main guys is, I believe, Cooper Flagg will be on the team.
Okay, so you think he's gonna take the league by storm and like make himself like okay, got you.
I think in a 3-year time frame, he's gonna have a real chance to put some stuff together, and that gives me another guy from the same draft class that I think is also gonna be here. I think Ace Bailey is gonna be here. Arius Bailey is going to be a problem. I'm telling y'all this right now. I'm letting y'all know this. In what's today? Today is July 30th, 2024. Ace Bailey is going to be a problem. I'm just letting y'all know this off rip.
Okay, so 2 players already that's not even in the league yet. So that's really interesting. Okay, good. Okay, who else you got?
So those are 2 of the guys. The other, I believe I have 4 other players left in this list. Are, I believe Paolo Banchero will be on this team.
Okay, I mean he has experience with the team already with the World Cup.
He played with the World Cup team. I think that he's going to be on the squad. I have Chet Holmgren here.
Yeah, okay.
I have Jalen Williams here. I think the Jaylen Brown ship has sailed, man. I think politics have made it really. I think politics are gonna make that one a little tricky, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing why I didn't put Enrique in like my thing too.
Yeah.
So,
I think the Jaylen Brown politics are gonna be a little weird, but I think Jalen Williams is still gonna be a really solid player. And then the other guy that I have that's gonna be my final guy, and he's gonna be kind of like an Andre Iguodala, Derek White, Drew Holiday type. I got Mikal Bridges making this team.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that for sure.
Now, I had a couple of NBA guys to fill the spot if a Cooper Flag, if a Ace Bailey were not ready or were not considered for the team. I will also admit that I was projecting a little deep here.
No. If I was in your position, I would have put Cooper Flag.
Yeah, I was projecting a little deep here with
I was
Cooper Flag and Ace Bailey. I also had two honorable mentions that are guys that are not in the league. Shout out AJ DeBonsta. He's in class of 2026 that reclassified recently. And shout out Cameron Boozer, both in class of 2026.
Yeah.
Both going to be problems. I'm not going to go too deep in them the same way I went with Ace Bailey. I think Ace Bailey's going to be different, but those two guys, AJ DeBonta and Cameron Boozer, I think are the other guys. But if we take those guys out of it, what's that? 4 guys that I named that are players that aren't even in the league yet. I have 3 other players that I think that are currently in the league could represent Team USA. The 3 guys I have, ironically, all from same draft class, are Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, and Evan Mobley.
Interesting.
Those are the 3 guys that I have making the team if the high school / college guys right now don't take the league by storm the way I'm expecting.
There's I like the names you chose, by the way. I really like the names you chose. Mm-hmm. There's one omission that I'm kind of maybe 2. Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson. Where did it kind of land?
So it's interesting that you mentioned that. I actually did kind of fumble with this one a little bit, not in the terms of I feel like I backed off of it in terms of not including them, but they were names that kind of came up a little bit later in my process of putting things together. But here's something that I thought was a little bit interesting about that in particular. When you look at the current Team USA squad that we have right now, is there anybody on the team that you would describe as a ball dominant ISO dribbler?
No, not really. I guess
because there are players. If you look at our current list, there are guys that can operate well within isolation. Kevin Durant, very strong isolation player. Jason Tatum, very strong isolation player. Devin Booker, very strong isolation player. But they all are guys that also are very strong operating off ball. If you look at the play style of Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson on their current teams, and obviously these are both small guards too, so you have to think about how they might age over the next 4 years. That's something else to keep into consideration. Notice I didn't name Ja Morant as another potential guy because of play style, right? So that's another thing that I think about when you talk about aging their games. When you think about that, also comparing their current play styles, you kind of just wonder, Team USA is supposed to be a very egoless squad. Yes, you do want to see certain guys rise to the occasion, but it is a very egoless squad because continuity is not a thing for this kind of team. This is, we're trying to send some of our very best talent to go get us a gold. So it kind of takes the continuity aspect of it. It comes down to, okay, how do play styles fit? Because we can't necessarily use familiarity as like a measuring stick.
Yeah, I kind of see that, what you mean. But if we're talking about no ego, I think that Jalen Brunson has to be at the top of that list as someone with no ego.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you if he made the team this year. But I feel like
he was part of the World Cup team last year. He had that experience.
True. But again, first World Cup team, the FIBA squad and the Olympic squad are 2 totally different things. Fair. That Olympic squad, that FIBA team is very different from this Olympic squad. If you just go roster for roster, it's not even close.
Oh, no. Yeah, right? No, for sure. Yeah.
Obviously. So I would say that him making FIBA, now I'm not, obviously I let Paolo Banchero be a little bit different from this, but I just think Paolo Banchero 4 years from now is just definitely going to be more talented than Jalen Brunson by then. Call me crazy if you feel like that's the case, but I think that Paolo Banchero 4 years from now is going to be a series. The boy's already a problem 2 years deep. So by year 6, he's what's that year, finishing year 6 for him. Yeah, he's going to be crazy. So Paolo Banchero is probably, Paolo Banchero and Tyrese Halliburton, if I'm not mistaken, would be the only 2 players. Was Bam Adebayo on that FIBA team?
I I'm trying to remember, but yeah, just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Either way, yeah, we'll look it up. But the only players that come to memory for me that I can think of that were on that FIBA team that are also on this Olympic squad are Paulo Banchero and Tyrese Halliburton. If I'm wrong, obviously let me know because
Yeah,
that clarifies a lot. But
Anthony Edwards.
Anthony
Yeah,
Edwards, of
yeah,
course, yes. So that's
yeah,
another one.
yeah,
But
that,
we
yeah.
have him as a
That's it. Yeah,
mainstay.
yeah,
But
exactly.
other than that, that's three players from the FIBA team that translated over to the Olympic squad.
Yeah,
So, I mean, when you really look at that, I don't want to, like I said, Paulo Banchero is the only one that I've seen, and I'm factoring in age as well, obviously, in this, because we're talking 4 years from now. The age curve for small guards is always interesting. Not everybody can be Steph Curry. Not everybody can be a Detroit Pistons Isaiah Thomas, right?
for sure.
So Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell, 4 years from now, we could be having a real conversation about them as being two of the better guards in the NBA, or two guys who are slowly, starting to, reduce in value in terms of just what they bring to the game, just simply because of their play style, as ball pounders, pause, but like, they're
Yeah,
two guys who are like big dribblers in terms of like, ISO heavy play style. And the fact that on top of that, they are two guys that are like age is not the kindest to their
yeah.
play style archetype.
Got you, got you. But yeah, I think that again, this is gonna be an insane like USA squad, and again,
Mm,
some of the guys that you have keeping on are gonna just continue to get better.
mm.
So either way, I think USA is gonna be a good odds, even though there's not gonna be like, maybe the LeBrons, the Steph, KD's in the world. They're still gonna be in great hands, especially that you have guys that are already within the program, whether it's from the World Cup team or this current team as well, like mixed in with it. I think Team USA is at least continuing with the continuity aspect, which I like.
Yeah, yeah. I think overall, I think both of our squads were like really interesting in terms of like how they're configured. Like you mentioned, the women's team sounds like they're going to be able to bring a lot of their 2024 squad back if we're just looking at how their talent should kind of age out and just kind of like have another really strong dominant run. Hopefully they kind of get the job done this year. And then for the men's team, obviously in theory it doesn't sound as dominant. We don't have the scary names where you say LeBron James is coming, Kevin Durant is coming, Steph Curry is coming, right? We don't have those kind of like scary dominant names, but Jason Tatum still going to be a top 5 caliber player by then. Devin Booker has a real chance to be that kind of guy. Anthony Davis, being an elder statesman
Yes.
alone, kind of is just like its own interesting thing. And I hope for the sake of the NBA that Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey, AJ DeBonsa, Cameron Boozer, I hope these guys are
Yeah.
good enough to make the Olympic squad, because if they're good enough to make Team USA in 2028, that means by 2028, the league, even with those guys like a LeBron, like a Steph, like a KD, shoot, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, all these guys that we see on the fair end of their career transitioning out. If guys like Cooper and Ace and AJ, these kind of guys come in and are that good 3 years, 4 years into their career, the league is in good hands as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
So I
100%. Yeah.
pray that these guys are that good, because if they're that good and you pair that with a Anthony Edwards, Paulo Banchero, your boy Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, John Morant is still here, right? Tyrese
Yeah.
Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey. I can keep going down this list where like by 2028 the league is still in good hands.
Hmm.
That means good basketball is being played in the NBA, and that's a twofold for us, because that means Team USA is going to still be going for gold, good and strong, and
Yeah.
NBA basketball is going to be good for 4 years beyond.
100%. But yeah, those are what we think the Team USA is gonna look like in about 4 years. Let me know. Let us know down below what you guys think. Any additions that we didn't even talk about? Any like subtractions you think that are not gonna be on the team? Let us know in the comment section down below. Jay, let's get into the actual Olympics that was going on right now, man. And so far, each team has played one game, and Team USA still looks like hadn't show like still like even though there's like 60 NBA players like within these Olympics outside of Team USA,
Um,
Team USA still looks like the best team out there. LeBron is looking insane. Katie's looking insane. Like Team USA, like people were like complaining about the fact that Jason Tatum was not playing, but Team USA just looks so good so far.
Look, man, the fact that Team USA was able to go 5-0 in exhibition, hand Serbia that big old L in game one to kind of kick things off in the opener, and get away with Tyrese Halliburton not playing, Jason Tatum not playing, KD missing all of the exhibition time. Like
Yeah.
this team, they've had some rough patches. Obviously, everybody's going to point mainly to that South Sudan game where things were a lot closer than they needed to be.
Yeah.
But this team, I think with the bright lights on, they're just going to be lethal. They're going to be dangerous. I think that we have the defensive versatility to kind of match up with anybody. And I'm gonna be honest with you. You guys over in Canada are the only team that I genuinely fear. We're gonna go through some of the other squads that
Yeah.
are gonna probably, pose some real threat. But if I'm just gonna make an early prediction, I said this last year and I was wrong. And granted, this was more of like that was more of a FIBA thing. But still, like, if I'm just being honest, I think we're talking about seeing Team USA and Canada playing for gold. That's how I'm gonna pick it. But obviously, TV is gonna give us a couple of squads that might, have a real chance to play spoiler.
100%. So the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna talk about, because we know the Team USA is kind of like the heavy favorite here, but as we mentioned, there are a lot of great NBA talent over on the other teams, and a lot of these other teams have looked really good as well. So we're going to go through each of these teams, and we're gonna say, like, what danger level are they a threat to in terms of Team USA? With 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. We're gonna go through each of these teams quickly, kind of give our quick points, and we're gonna start off with Team Canada. Jay, how much of a threat on a scale of 1 to 5 is Team Canada to Team USA?
I'm gonna say 4. They're definitely up there. I would love to go full 5, but I just believe in my squad too much to get to feel like I'm really sweating. But I'm gonna say 4 because the talent is there. Obviously, across the board, they've got guys at every single position that definitely are going to A, guard, B, can score at a pretty decent level, and they're playing with a bit of a chip on their shoulder coming off of FIBA because that was not their best showing. And not to say that Team USA doesn't have a bit of a chip on their shoulder as well coming off of FIBA in their own regard.
I mean,
But
like Team USA lost to Team Canada the bronze medal game, so
yeah, I was gonna say, in comparison, I think that USA has a little bit more to prove in terms of just like wanting to be able to get their get back. But Canada, like I said beforehand, I said at the top, I believe that they're the biggest threat to Team USA in terms of just roster construction with the NBA guys that they have. I believe in my boy Shea to be a danger to just about anybody throughout
Yes.
Olympics play, and him alone is just enough for me to feel like they're a real danger. Not even to mention guys like RJ Barrett who have already played relatively well. Dylan Brooks is getting his, despite the fact that maybe he's not doing it on the offensive end as much. We know what he is as a defensive player. Lugas Dort, Jamal Murray. Like, you can go down the list, man, of guys that Canada has that just makes you guys just so lethal. I'm gonna go at a 4 here.
Yeah, I actually have the exact same rating. I have it as a 4. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's own mixed in with some, like, not just like, random NBA players, like really solid NBA players, like you mentioned earlier. And we haven't even seen like the best version of Jamal Murray yet. Yes. And you know what Jamal Murray does when he faces off against LeBron and AD. We have 2 years of playoff tape to see what happens. Yeah. But I think that Team Canada right now, big men aside, that is my biggest problem with Team Canada. Yeah. If you want to hear more about that, check out my page because that's literally the only thing I can't complain about Team Canada. But all in all, this team is looking great. I think that the perimeter defense, as long as they don't foul, like if they can like limit the fouls, that'd be great. But I think that this team can compete with anyone in the Olympics, including Team USA. And now that we have 2 guys that can kind of create their own shot at the end of games and have proven it on an NBA level and now on an Olympic level, I think that Team Canada is a real threat. I think a 4 is the perfect place. I think that, again, Team USA has maybe too much talent to maybe consider a 5 to put them on even like an even scale, but catch them on the right night, I think Team Canada can beat anyone.
Yeah, Canada is lethal, bro. You guys over there, I'm watching every game very closely because wow, yeah.
They've looked great. And for real, we haven't even talked about this guy. Shout out to RJ Barrett, bro. He's been absolutely
seriously
elegant over there at Team Canada as well. Next team though, Jay, Australia.
Yeah.
Like, they won bronze medal at the last Olympics. Even though they lost to Kansas today, they still looked like a really solid team. What do you give them as a threat from a scale from 1 to 5?
I'm gonna give it a 2, maybe, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. As a Bulls fan, I'm praying that all this stuff we're seeing from Josh Giddey is like
He's been awesome.
translatable. He's been
Been
really
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Josh Giddey. Look, I think a lot of people are gonna rag on the trade with Alex Caruso, as did I. So don't
Yeah.
think I'm giving him a pass here. But
Yeah.
if what he's doing in you know in if what Josh Giddey is doing in Olympics play does translate when he becomes, a top level option for the Chicago Bulls, which he will for good or for bad,
Yeah.
I think that's really good. I think seeing him in this environment right now, hopefully it translates moving forward. For him, I mean, he's doing it on low attempts, but like I'm just saying, he's shooting 45.5% from three right now. Again,
Yeah.
low attempts, but I'll take what I can get from Josh right now. But I mean, you just go across the board and like, if Jock Landale is going to be your best big, I'm just not worried. I'm just not
Man.
worried. I mean, that's just where I'm at right now.
I mean, I would have to say I have him as a 2 as well. But
Okay.
I will say that this team is like what Australia has done, and I think a lot of these other teams that we're going to talk about going forward is keeping that continuity from like past Olympics, which is the
Yeah.
problem that we've had with Team USA, where they feel like, oh, you can make like a platoon swap where you can just
Right.
like go like some sort of like swap and like expect the same results.
Yeah.
They've done better with that as of late in terms of bringing in the same guys, but these guys, like especially with Team Australia, Patty Mills has been doing it for forever. You have all these like other guys. Joe Wingle's been there for the longest time.
Yeah.
Like they've been like they're able to like lead this team going forward, and I think that they've shown in the last Olympics that they can compete with the top teams. I would feel more comfortable with this team if they had a defensive stopper. I don't know why they didn't bring over Matisse Thybulle, to be completely honest. Like even team, if you looked at Australia like fans as well, they're kind of confused why they have this guy from the NBL instead of Matisse Thybulle as well. But I just think that if without like a true defensive stopper, which I seen today with Canada the day we're recording, I have to give them a 2. I think they're a solid team, but I just don't think they're going to be as big of a threat to Team USA.
I feel that. Yeah, Australia's good, but I mean, like I said, I'm just putting faith in this Josh Giddey thing. But other than
For
that,
sure.
I'm not taking too much from this.
Yeah, I don't know how far you can go as a team with Josh Giddey your best guy. Yeah. Next team though, France. They got Wemby. They got Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. What do you have to give them on a scale from 1 to 5?
Okay, so I know that everybody wants them to be a lot scarier than they are, and I think that's kind of giving you an indication of where I stand on this squad. I'm gonna give them a 3. Now, at the end of the day, they have Wemby. I get that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't see too much, at least at this very moment, I don't see too much that I genuinely fear. Like,
You don't
Nick,
fear Gershon Yabusele?
not for a second. Not for now. I think the most telling thing to me, and TV, we talked about this off pod a little bit, is that Rudy Gobert, he looking a little iffy so far through this early stage, and that makes things a little bit more interesting because we know who Victor Wembanyama is on this level, at least so far. 18 and a half and 10 rebounds so far, coming off a really big game to force OT and obviously win the game a little bit earlier on as when we're recording this.
Yeah, no, he dominated overtime.
Yeah.
Dominated overtime. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Evan Fournier, similar to Patty Mills, always has a little run when it comes around this time of the year. But hey, that guard spot, am I supposed to fear Frankie Smokes? I don't think so. Me personally. I don't know. Like I said, France does not strike the kind of like fear that I'm like used to with them. And Victor is kind of like the pole in the ground that's kind of keeping this team afloat in terms of even making them feel like a real contender of any kind to me. I'm going to give him a 3 because I think Vic is just that good. Same way as I gave Canada a 4, not just off of the strength of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but I think without Shai, Canada would have been a 3 for me. And with Shai, it's a 4. I think with Wemby, they're a 3 for France. I think without Wemby, they're like a 2. So maybe that's just the superstar difference for you right there.
Oh, I have him as a 2. I'm gonna tell you right now. I have him as a 2. As
fair.
Something as a third I fear. I just think that when it comes to this team, I mean, look, we saw a great game from Matthew Struzell. I mean, he freaking hit that 4-point play to force overtime. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I just think that this team with an aging Batum, with not much perimeter creation, as you can only trust Wemby so much in terms of like creating for himself and for others, which he has been doing. But at the same time, I think that Team USA has the tools to kind of mitigate Wemby to a certain extent, but they for sure have the tools to run Rudy Gobert off the court, which is going to be something which you need to have both of them playing to be at their best. If you can play him off the court, you're asking Wemby a bit too much there on the offensive and defensive end. I don't really trust the other guys. I mean, Batum has his moments, but again, he's an older player at this point. Fournier is like streaky at this point of his career. So France is good. They definitely can make some noise, especially now with Wemby. But at the same time, I think that Team USA, with the current roster constructed, I think like blows them out the water still.
Let's also not forget that, Joel Embiid hasn't looked too well so far, but when he sees Rudy Gobert, he might feel a little differently because he tends to have some really solid games against Rudy. So, I mean, maybe they'll be able to if they face France, it might not be the worst thing in the world to dust Joel off and let him go toe-to-toe with him because he seems to have a pretty fun time. Not to mention Anthony Davis has a pretty good history against Rudy Gobert as well. So
for sure. Yeah, 100%. Next team, though, Jay, we got Spain. Now, Spain, number 2 rankings in FIBA. They may not have the star talent from like the 2000s team with like Mark Gasol, Calderon, all those dudes. But they are still a very solid roster. And they're so far, and they had a pretty good win against Greece this morning as well. But Jay, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much are they a danger to Team USA?
It's a 1. It's a 1.
1.
I know it's easy to just go and like, oh, okay, we're gonna go with like the fact that there's like not a ton of like scary NBA talent here. Sure, whatever, if that's what you want to say, but like I love Santi Aldama, but like he's the driving force for this Spanish squad right now. Like he just is, and that just doesn't tell me much. And don't get me wrong, dude. I understand Olympic play, FIBA play, it's totally different than what you do in the league. Not just in terms of just your usage, but also things like your role, just the play style obviously is a little bit different. The way refs call things or don't call things, way different. Spain is always going to be a threat in their own regard just because, like, they just always are. Like you mentioned before, they just have that natural history within this setting. But, like, I'm sorry. Like, just not this year, buddy. Not this year.
Yeah. Jay, this is where we differ. I have him as a 3.
Interesting. I got to hear this one.
This is what I talk about. When I talk about chemistry, Jay, like, in terms of, like, playing together, not just for, like, a one Olympics. These guys, you have people like Rudy Fernandez, Sergio Llull, who've been doing this for near 20 years.
True.
You've had the Hernan Gomez brothers doing this for near a decade. This is a team where, again, the NBA talent might not be there, like you mentioned, but this team as a whole, this team as a collective unit, just provides a threat to anyone. There's a reason why they won Eurobasket a couple years ago. There's a reason why they're number 2 ranking in FIBA. This team as a whole, the way that they share the ball, the way that they're able to get the most, even out of someone like Lorenzo Brown, who was a fringe NBA player when he's around, could get the most out of someone like him. Mm-hmm. And now with like that go-to scorer, and Santi Aldama has been great in these Olympics so far.
Yes.
You have that now. Again, this is the case of you might not have a star NBA talent. This is a case of like a Patty Mills on team like Australia, where Santi Aldama might just like take his game to a whole nother level and take the team Spain. But as a team as a whole, in terms of continuity that these guys have had for the longest time, I think if USA takes on Spain, again, you might not have that Pau Gasol sort of match you have to worry about. But this team as a whole, as a collective unit, trying to break down the Team USA defense is going to be potentially scary. That's why I have them as a 3.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that might be worth maybe considering where maybe I bump them up to a 2 is once you get to the real bracket, you only have to beat them once. Remember, we got to remind ourselves sometimes this isn't a 7-game series. Obviously there's, the selection games in order to be able to get the seeding down pat, but this is not a 7-game series. Once they get to the bracket, you only have to beat them one time to be able to get them off the board. So that continuity could mean a lot because all they have to do is win one game. They don't have to win by a lot. They don't have to win by anything more than 1 point. But if they can take them out in one game, it changes the entire board for Spain. If you're talking about continuity, I completely understand that. They might have the most talented roster from that perspective. If you want to talk about cohesion,
Yeah.
or let's not say talented, they might have the best roster if cohesion is the attribute we're focusing on. I'm gonna lean with the talent though, obviously, but
Yeah.
like you said beforehand, continuity favors them probably in a way that I don't think any other team that we've discussed so far or that we're going to discuss at all today kind of has leaning in their favor like Spain does.
100%. All right, Jay, the final team we want to discuss here, Germany. The team that knocked out Team USA last year. This is the World Cup champs. They are undefeated right now. They look really good going into the Olympics. What level of threat do you think they are?
It feels weird because I don't feel like they're as talented, but I'm gonna put them at a 4, dude. I'm gonna put them at a 4
Yeah.
right there with Canada because they look good. They've been playing well. Shout out Franz Wagner. He did not have the greatest postseason, but he clearly got some bag work in because he is coming to these Olympics and he has really put his foot down. High usage, much more on ball presence. Seems to be a lot more aggressive on ball on both sides of the floor. Dennis Schroeder playing just as well as he was during that FIBA run that they went on. And if we're being honest, this team, they know how to turn it on. They know how to turn it on at the right time, and they know who their go-to guys are down the stretch. And so far, so good. Like they've been able to play relatively well, and you know they want to build off the momentum of that FIBA run. You know that that's the goal. The goal is for them to not just place, but to sit at the top the way they were able to do during that FIBA selection run. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there, like we mentioned before with Spain, there's a lot of continuity here. Not as much as the Spanish team, for example, but enough that should make you really wonder, like, how dangerous this squad really can be. Because when you pair the NBA talent with the fact that this team has a lot of cohesion across the board, or at least a decent amount, that makes them one of the more dangerous squads in this entire tourney. And like I said, they're not as talented as Canada, but they just know how to hit a different gear that like you have to respect.
Yeah. For me, for Dennis Schroeder has it. I mean, I'm gonna have him as a 4 as well. I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta respect the freaking like defending like World Cup champions. They basically have the same like lineup as last year, which that on its own with a pretty talented NBA roster. I wouldn't say it's again not as talented as Canada, but a pretty talented NBA roster with like Schroeder, the Wagner brothers, Daniel Tice. Isaac Bonga has been really good for them these Olympics as well. But this team in general make mixed it with just another year of just continuity and the way that they're playing so far in their group. I have to give them a 4 just because, like you mentioned, when it comes to international play, they just know when to take it to the next level. Dennis Schroeder, World Cup MVP. He knows when it comes to the international stage what it takes to play at that next level. He feels like he just like feels more in his element when he plays like FIBA basketball. Then you still got the wing talent in Franz. Do I think that Franz is gonna shoot as bad as he did last year? Against like Team USA, maybe not, but at the same time, he's still a very solid NBA player. I think this roster is very good up and down, and the fact that they're the defending champions who have proven, maybe not this USA squad, but have been able to go up to Team USA and actually beat them. Again, a completely different squad, but still, I think that this team is a threat as a 4, just because as like a whole overall unit, they are like on Canada's level as to potentially being able to take down Team USA.
Yeah, Germany is gonna be different. I hope you're wrong. Genuinely, I
Yeah.
hope you're wrong. But like we mentioned earlier, that FIBA run, not different squad. We mentioned it beforehand. Only 3 guys from that FIBA team for Team USA are on the or returners to this main squad that we're talking about. But hey, I mean, at the end of the day, it shouldn't disrupt the fact that like this Germany team is as good as they've played so far. Like they genuinely are as talented as they've shown on the floor through these early stages.
100%. But yeah, those are who we think is like. This is like how we think like the rest of the competition stacks up to Team USA. Let us know down below in terms of these teams. What do you think they have in them as Team USA? Or do you think that Team USA is just going to completely dominate the competition again and get the win? Let us know what you guys think down below. Jay, final segment of the show, and it's time for the quiz. And it's been a while, Jay, but we're going to be doing a quiz surrounding the Olympics. And
Okay.
Jay, for this quiz, we're going to we're going to be going something with Team USA related, and we think last year we did something where it's like most rebounds of a Team USA player. I think it was something like that for the World Cup. Jay, I'm gonna keep it even more simple this year. Jay, I'm gonna need you to name me the top 10 scores in Team USA Olympic history, not including World Cups, not including any of the other tournaments, Olympic history. So just the top 10 players.
Okay.
Scores.
I think that should actually be like kind of easy. No?
Potentially. Let's see.
It should be, I think. Is Katie here?
Number 1 on the list, 458.
Carmelo Anthony?
Number 2 on the list, 336.
Kobe?
Number 7 on the list, 217.
LeBron?
Number 3 on the list, 294.
Okay, yeah. All this sounds right so far. Who are some guys who are like some mainstays on the team? Is like a Tim Duncan here?
Not on the list.
Not on the list. Okay. Okay. That's not disappointing. Is David Robinson on the list?
David Robinson, number 4 on the list, 270.
Okay. All right, cool. Not mad at that. Not mad at that at all. Let's think about guys who are. Is MJ on the list?
Number 5 on the list, 256.
Is Scotty on the list?
Scottie Pippen is not on the list.
Scottie Pippen is not on the list. Is like a Charles Barkley on the list?
Charles Barkley, number 6 on the list, 231. So now you're just missing number 8 and 9 and 10. So you're missing the bottom 3.
Okay. Who are some guys who have been on this team pretty frequently? Is is Patrick Ewing on the list?
Patrick Ewing is not on the list.
Okay. Not entirely upset with that, but like makes sense. Is who else are on these teams? Who else have been on these teams? Wow. Oh, is Dwayne Wade on the list?
Number 9 on the list.
Okay. Is else am I thinking of?
2 of these guys are definitely beatable.
Huh?
2 of these guys are definitely like these final 2 guys. You could definitely get them.
Okay, that gives me hope. I'm glad you believe in me, TV.
Yes.
I'm not calling him by his name. Is the mailman on this list?
Number 10 on the list.
Okay. Who the heck else do I think of when I think of Olympic basketball? Older or new player? Or new, I would guess not newer because like higher, but like 2000s or like before? Before? Oh, excuse me. Shaq?
Not Shaq.
Reggie Miller?
Not Reggie Miller.
Ew, actually, that's not a good one. He was on Redeem Team 2. That's not a good one.
Yeah.
Because that's a little bit, that's almost like not too recent, but like. Well, like Chris Mullin or something?
Chris Mullin at number 9.
Wow. Okay. I was just thinking of guys who have like been on like multiple U.S. teams and like, I didn't know he was like bucket like that though. But I didn't think like Magic or anybody like that because like, you know.
Yeah, for really sure. Yeah, that's a good list. And yeah, that is the top 10. Jay, maybe it might be too easy. So do you want to do another quick one if you want to?
We could do something else. Scoring. Chris Mullin threw me off, but like I was just thinking of guys that like, you know.
For sure. Okay, we could do something here with the Olympics. What if let's go with this one over here. We'll make it pretty short for this one. The top 5 guys in Team USA Olympic history with the most blocks.
Okay. So we got to go back to like David Robinson, right?
34. Yes, he's number 1 on the list.
Okay, that makes sense. These all have to be all bigs, so like that's kind of important here. At least I would assume so. that it was all bigs. So who are big men that play for us? Wow.
Yeah. It's a good mix, these final three guys of like older and newer.
Okay. Is Patrick Ewing here?
Yep, he's number 30. He's at number 2 with 33.
Is the mailman here?
He is not on this list. He's not even in the top 10, surprisingly.
Dang. Is Shaq here?
Shaq is like number 8 on this list, so he's just misses off the list.
What the heck? Okay, no pressure. Shoot. Who are big men that play for our teams?
They don't all have to be big men.
I mean, good point. Is like Dwayne Wade on the list?
Nope, he's on the list. No.
Kobe?
Kobe's on the list.
LeBron?
LeBron is the first guy off. He has 10.
Scotty?
Scotty did not make the list.
What the hell? Alonzo Mourning?
Alonzo Mourning, 14. He's number 4.
Wait, so what two of them are missing?
You're missing 2 guys.
No, I'm saying which number? Like out of the top 5?
3 and 5. 3 and 5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang. Wow. Okay. No pressure. Holy cow. Older or like more recent?
One older, one recent.
Oh, damn it. Okay. That might be a little.
Yeah.
Might. AD?
AD is not on this list. He's not even in the top 10, surprisingly. What the heck?
Wow. And this is total blocks or like blocks per game?
Total blocks.
Okay.
David Robinson and Patrick Ewing, by the way, are like miles ahead of everyone else on this list.
Huh.
I think they double number 3 who you're missing. Number 3 is the current guy.
A current guy?
You might want to think longevity here. This is like a longevity play.
Dang, because I said LeBron, he's not there. So longevity, we gotta think longevity. Who's been around that also is like really blocking shots like that? Because AD's not on the list. Is Kevin Durant on the list?
He's number 3 at 16.
Wow. Talk about a legendary Olympic player. Yeah, wow.
3 Olympics, 16 blocks. Now you're missing number 5. And you won't think of this guy as a shot blocker, but he's a damn good defender.
Is he a big?
He is not.
Wow. Okay, that makes things very interesting.
I don't know if you're gonna hit. I don't know if you're gonna be disappointed yourself that you didn't like remember this guy earlier. But I guess he's not a big, so maybe you won't like you think of it right away.
It's not Jordan, right?
It's Jordan.
It is? Wow, okay.
Number 5. He has 11 blocks.
What the hell? Okay. Well, there you go, bro. Like
there's Jordan. But yeah, a little extra quiz at the end there. Pretty easy with the TUSA stuff. Let us know down below what other quizzes you want to see. And of course, we're gonna have some a lot more different quizzes going forward and as the off season progresses. But Jay, we have reached another end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. What do you have to tell these beautiful people before we sign out?
Thank you guys for tuning in every single week, man. At the end of the day, we are trying to pump out this basketball content as much as we can. Obviously, TV has been keeping up with the Olympics for the TikTok page. Huge stuff over there. So please tap in with that because he's been locked in every single day, at least as much as he possibly can. I'm going to have a new series start over on the TikTok starting next week as of this recording. So we're getting into all 30 teams, man. We're going to start poking holes in the teams, figuring out stuff that we've seen, figuring out stuff that we expect. And start figuring out like how we feel about these squads going into next year. Obviously, me and TV will do some deeper dives closer to the start of the NBA league year. really kicking off. But in the meantime, we're kind of just going to have fun with it and go through all 30 teams and kind of just figure out how we feel about this offseason and like what the strengths and weaknesses of this team, each team are going into next year, the expectations for every team going into next year based off their current roster. And I'm really excited to do that. And then in terms of the podcast itself, a lot more open-ended conversations. You know, we did this one today about predicting the 2028 Olympic squads. That was obviously a fun one. We've done one in the past where we were trying to predict the top 10 players in the NBA in 2028. Go back and listen to that episode a while back. Was another interesting one. Obviously, me and TV got our top 10 players in the league today list out. Check that one out as well. So a lot of different open-ended content that's going to be a real build up, not just like going into the upcoming league year, but like something that we're going to kind of be monitoring for the next couple of seasons, actually, which is kind of a really exciting thing. We plan to do maybe not a ton more topics that are like looking, into the crystal ball per se in terms of 2028, but a lot more like, forward thinking based podcasts where like we make some predictions, we make some hot takes, we take some reaches on some guys, maybe even have some episodes based around drafts instead of the draft just being at the end of the pod. Like a lot of different interesting stuff that's going to be coming up along the way. So stay tuned. It's going to be a long off season. Obviously, not too much noise outside of Olympic play, but don't forget WNBA is coming back, and the NBA never stops just because they're not on the not on the NBA floors. There's always going to be some basketball to talk about.
Oh yeah, for all we know, that there's gonna be a freaking like a Larry Marketed trade in like the next 2 days. Even though he says he wants to stay, who knows what's gonna happen in the NBA? That's how unpredictable it is. So you're gonna be able to follow along with that, the WNBA Olympics, and just all off-season content on the Hit Your Free Throws podcast page. Make sure you follow this YouTube, the podcast section, where you continue to follow along over there, the Instagram, TikTok, and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for all your support. And yeah, we're going to be back next week talking more Olympics and some other awesome topics as well. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is TV. This is Jay. We're signing out. Peace.